It's not your typical split. Usually the split is done right in the middle. So the tenderloin would be right here. Part of it's right here. Typically, they take the head off before they split it. But this is sort of cool because you can see one of my favorite parts of the pig, which is the jowl. You can make guanciale out of, or the cheek, which is right here. It makes an amazing stew if you can collect enough of them. And this also demonstrates my political moment right here. Something I always like to point out during demos. See that black right there in the gland? See these glands? They're sort of oatmeal colored, or sort of the color of my skin. That's the color of a healthy animal right there. The paler, the sort of the healthier, happier it was. No odor. So the glands basically act as sort of a filter for our bodies. In industrial meat, which is most of the meat available in the world, the glands are all pitch black. I mean, not even just spotted black like that, which means maybe I had a cold or something. But every single gland is pitch black and reeks. And to me, because I did cut industrial meat for a little bit, that was sort of the most powerful example. I mean, I had read Michael Pollan and Vandana Shiva and all the various political points of view, but when you actually are physically confronted with that reality, there's no arguing it. That is what it is, and it's disgusting. We're poisoning our animals. So I'll stop there, but just wanted to point that out.
I'll pick up there. So that was one of the things that I started thinking about last summer when Sodexo said they were going to be gestation crate free. Not necessarily non-industrial, but it's a step in the humane direction. It is illegal in, I think, 9 states. It's illegal in UK and Canada. A gestation crate is a 2-foot by 6.2 foot crate that sows who are breeding these industrial pigs are forced to live in most of their life. They get moved to a farrowing stall when the piglets are nursing, but for the most part it spends its life unable to turn around or sometimes even sit down when it's so big that it's stuck against the cage. So I started looking into this last summer and sort of tracked what we were doing for pork purchasing over the year, and we bought over 9,000 pounds of industrial pork this past year. And that was with us buying, offsetting some of it. We obviously raised 5 of our own. We bought some from Nyman Ranch. We bought a bunch of bacon ends. We bought like 60 cases of bacon ends, which are great for salad toppings or pizza toppings or something. So, but like it doesn't work for strip bacon and it gets expensive. So we also tried to make all of our own bacon, which I ordered 500 pounds of pork belly from Rodman, New York, Lucky 7 Livestocks last fall, and anticipated getting ahead, and we only got 150. So, it became clear that the industry is not even close to being able to support ourselves. Bon Appetit Management Company, another one of the sustainable competitors, they've committed by 2015. I mean, Burger King hasn't set a date, but they said they're going to gestation crate free. Smithfield just recently announced they're going to be gestation crate free, and their target is 2017, which is when Sodexo has said they want action plans from their suppliers. So this year, we're really, I sat down with Bill and Bailey, and between the new partnership, there's actually a flyer for them, PT Farms. Between them, they do some gestation crates, some without. Between them, Lucky Sevens, and our own, we're going to try this year. I think we have a plan in place to eliminate gestation crates from our, in Nyman. Nyman would be, we're going to continue to use Nyman. That's our goal for the year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when Smithfield announced this year that they were going to do that.
They just bought out by a Japanese or
Chinese
rep, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's great. So, again, I'm a little different than I'm very different than the industry standard, but One of the differences is I'll cut, even with pork, between the 5th and 6th, and the industry standard is between the 3rd and 4th. Partly because I just love pork butt, which is not what you would think it is. It's the top of the shoulder. Like lamb, but more so, it's the most versatile. I mean, when people ask me what my favorite cut is when I'm doing these demos, I usually say the pork shoulder, because there's so much you can do with it. It's also extremely affordable as far as cuts go. It's always going to be one of your cheapest cuts. And with a shoulder, you can make sausage, you can make salumi, you can make pulled pork, you can smoke it. You can do a beautiful braise with it. I like to braise it in milk. I also like to braise it in stock. You can make a copa with it. What else am I forgetting?
Roast it.
Just roast it straight up. Yeah, country-style ribs, smoked country-style ribs. It's just a fantastic cut. So I like to leave, I like my butts big. And it also, you have less chops, but the chops you have are all going to be really fantastic, tender, juicy chops. So, just like the lamb, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Is there a reason why it was called pork butt from the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. It's not verified, but it's an English term, and I think it's because you look at the profile, it does sort of pump up a little bit.
Okay. So it's not like a bastardization of another word that just ended up
Don't think so, but it could be.
Okay.
So many of these, if we get to do beef all together, you'll get to hear some really bizarre and amazing butcher terms. Things called the mother-in-law, or the gooseneck, or the rat, or there are so many weird terms that looking into the history of them would be amazing, but could take years.
It's also called the Boston butt, too. Right?
Yeah, the Boston butt's the full name. So the top part is the Boston butt. The bottom part is called the picnic ham. The picnic ham I reserve almost exclusively when I'm in a shop for grind, for sausage. It's a cumbersome cut. It's not easy to deal with, especially at home. But the meat's great. The flavor is unbelievable. You can just see all that. I'm pretty impressed with the marbling that's happening right there. These would be your country-style ribs if you cut them along here. And you can see the fat in there. Again, it's about a 30-70 fat to meat ratio, which is what you're looking for when you're making sausage.
And would you cut back to do the bacon along the back here?
No, the bacon really starts here.
It does start there?
Yeah.
Does this actually have like a different flavor profile going back towards the butt?
Yeah, I think it's stronger flavor. It's pork. You'll taste it more with pastured pork than you would with industrial pork, anything. But the shoulder is always going to have, I think, the strongest flavor and the best flavor.
Is there bacon marketed?
What's that?
Is there a bacon that's marketed with the shoulder cut?
Not that I know of, but that's interesting. It would be a cool experiment to do. You're basically talking about sort of using the what would be sort of the brisket as the bacon. Yeah, that'd be fun to play with. It may not be as fatty, actually, ironically. You can see sort of
It's fatty. Oh, okay.
the profile. That's more familiar. This is a smaller pig than what market weight pigs usually about 200, 220, and this was, what, 150?
133.
So it's not as fatty as
under 150, just so.
Do you think with being the brisket, though, it'd give a little bit more of a textural?
Yeah, I think the texture would be pretty interesting.
You would have to watch. I wouldn't do like a 6-hour smoke on it. It's going to dry out on it.
Yeah. I'd even want to do like a wet cure with it rather than a dry cure. So we've made bacon with the jowl. We made face bacon.
Nice.
Canadian bacon is the loin, which is sort of part of that right there.
Just attached to the other side.
So
So just before we move on, so one of the things we're doing to offset the pulled pork cost this year is also using the shoulder. So we're gonna, when we order our butts for pork, we're getting half shoulders. So we're buying the whole front half. So I really had to sort of think about menuing nose to tail if we're gonna ask all these vendors to start selling to us in quantities. I mean, they have no problem getting rid of tenderloins and loins, but we really need to take other parts. And just want to point out some of the things we're going to start using, just so that everybody gets a better sense of how difficult it's going to be for the entire industry to change.
Yeah, and when you get whole shoulder, you also get all this great meat, which you wouldn't get if you just got the butt. And so, like when Jamie and I used to do pulled pork, we would put the whole thing in the smoker like this. And the meat that comes off of here is awesome. I mean, you're not really getting anything from this, but you get a lot here, and you lose that if you just get the butt. So again, it's another way to be more sort of sustainable, use the most of it. So it's a little harder to see the angle, but we can pretend, sort of like that, I think. Pork is the easiest thing to break down. The guy who taught me how to break down used to brag that he can break down a whole pork in 3 minutes. I still don't actually know how far he means, like whether he means just cutting into its primals or case ready, which would be impossible. But when you get going, actually I think I've broken the pig into its primals in about 3 minutes. It's really straightforward. You really just have these basic parts, and then you have the options of doing more with it, but really leave them as is, and there's a lot to do with it.
I went to the New England Meat Conference in Concord. You can go in Concord, New Hampshire, over spring break, mostly to find out more about mobile poultry slaughter. That's my biggest concern right now. But there was in the middle, they had a bluegrass band, everybody dancing, and then all of a sudden the music stopped, and there was a table out in the middle of the dance floor, and they brought out this butcher from Brooklyn who broke down the whole side in 20 minutes.
Who was it?
I forget his name. No, it's probably a small, close-knit community.
So normally I wouldn't be sawing still, because basically you only want to be sawing through bone. The hand's still a little frozen, so it's easier.
I think I only want to saw through the bone, not the meat.
Because the saw is really tearing, and it's not cutting, so it's not good for the meat. Especially, I'm always thinking about the case, because I'm a retail butcher. So it's a little different.
So you bring the bone pieces to the meat too, right?
Yeah, that's right, and that discolors the meat. But it's really just, it's not good for the meat, it's tearing it. And that's the bone dust, pink stuff. And when I use a bandsaw, usually I have a little bone scraper, and I'll just run that across, and it just sort of scrapes the bone dust off. Bone dust isn't bad for you or anything, but it will discolor the meat. So I basically got where I wanted to hit it. It's not that different from how we cut the lamb. Now, if we were in Italy or Spain, we'd take this guy and put it in salt for 30 days, and then let it hang for a year or two. And you'd have prosciutto. There's a lot you can do with the ham besides, brining it and smoking it. So you can use it for sausage. You can break it down into its smaller cuts. Cutlets are usually cut from the ham, and it's great roast too. Oh, and during the summer, I really love to cut big round chops, big ham steaks. They look like those big Tom and Jerry steaks. And they're really fun to throw on the grill. Cut them like an inch and a quarter thick.
When you're cutting that on the bandsaw, do you make sure that the bone is actually sitting on the table versus up? Yeah,
that's a great question. Yeah, you always want, just like working with wood, you always want the most stable side down.
Mm-hmm. So you would put that whole thing through a bandsaw?
What's that?
You wouldn't score around to the bone and just hit it, or?
If I really was being really anal, yes, I would. But more often than not, in a busy shop, just zip it through, and then that's when you would use the bone scraper just to
Yeah.
scrape it off. But again, it's not great because even with the bone saw, you're really tearing the muscle. You're not cutting. So like there's this one great butcher in San Francisco, Ryan Farr, who owns 4505 Meats, and he's really great about that. That's one of the things I admire about him is he barely uses a saw at all. It's all knife and cleaver, and he'll cut all the meat and then just use a cleaver and a hammer, which is a technique I stole from him, to cut the, go through the bone. And it's also, he's jointing a lot, which is a much more European way of doing it. And it's better for the meat for sure. So, shoulder, ham, loin, belly. And that's the real difference between pork and the ruminants, lamb, beef. Is no other animal is the belly valuable. In fact, in all the other animals, traditionally the belly is sort of looked at as waste meat. It's just used for grind or whatever. But with pork, the belly is really one of the most valuable cuts. I mean, that's why we have pork belly shares.
Why it's so hard to get?
So, figure out. I'm not gonna. Normally, if you had the loin here, which we'll see on the other side, I would cut it right about here, and you'd have either a great roast or do rib and loin chops, pork chops. But I'm going to leave this whole, just treat the whole thing like a belly. So I'm going to take the sirloin off. Take the tenderloin out.
And you cut after the last rib? Or
I'm looking for that same sort of, you can't really see it here, but sort of where the bone begins to angle up for the tail, or for the hip. Tenderloin tipsicle. Used for grind. Sirloin, again, is something I think is really underused with pork. It's a great roast. You can do cutlets with it. It's really great grind. It's if you're looking for a leaner pork grind, it's a shoulder. It's pretty fatty. I really like to use the sirloin for that. And boneless pork chops, sirloin chops are really great. I've seen.
Where the blade is?
What's that?
This is where the blade is?
No, this is the hip.
Oh, okay.
I've seen bone-in sirloin chops, which are good, but again, they're not easy to manage either as a cook or an eater, just because the shape of the bone's a little odd. But the flavor in the sirloin is really great. And you would debone this just like we did with the lamb, sort of following the hip bone. think it's still too frozen to really debone. Now you have the belly and the spare ribs. So with the spare ribs, now the reason they're called spare ribs, and this will change regionally depending on what has more value in that area, but here in New England, the belly is where the value is. We don't eat ribs as much as we do bacon. So the spare ribs are spare ribs because they have very little meat on them. Really, when I take them off, I'm really scraping against the bones.
Yeah, that would be St. Louis style if there was more meat on it.
Maybe that's the difference. I thought that had more to do with the rub and the way they were cooked.
Skip Memphis.
What?
I usually do a Memphis rub on St. Louis cut.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you buy, Gary? Did you just say St. Louis when you're buying the rib?
You get 3 pounds and down, full rack.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just a commercial cut. I don't know the number. But
Okay, so you get, it's not squared.
No.
Okay, so ours are squared off.
Mm.
That's
Right.
Yeah, that'll be when they cut chops and they'll run it
Yeah.
through a saw. And they'll cut them 4 inches usually. Yeah, 4 to 5 inches.
When you're doing
Perfectly square.
beef and getting the prime rib cut, is that because it's taken some more of the primal out, and that's thus prime rib?
It's prime. That's like a value.
The value,
Yeah.
okay, not from primal.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Makes you wonder. So prime might have come from the primal cuts. That might be could have been the other way around.
For meat grading,
Yeah.
prime choice select.
What's that?
Are you?
They get derivative of.
I don't know.
Oh, and then there are the grades
The
too.
grades,
So there's
yeah.
choice prime, which is a whole nother thing. So there's prime rib, which is sort of, I think at this point, sort of almost meaningless the way it's used.
Yeah.
Then there's prime grade, which is the way industrial meat is sort of graded. There's prime, choice,
And that's the marbling between the 5th and the 6th.
yeah, the thickness of the fat and the marbling. And so that's not really relevant to pastured meat, that grading system. And then
Right.
there's the primals.
Yeah.
Which is like the first layer of cuts.
Mhm.
And there's the subprimal individual stage.
So when I cut the ribs, I will leave the flank on the ribs. That's a little added bonus. That's sort of, like, turn it up a little bit.
So Andy, at Lawrenceville, we have a class that at the end of the term do a hunter and gathering. And they actually bring one of the professors in from Harvard who does stone cuttery. And they have to go find stones on the campus where he comes back and shows them how to make tools. And actually break down a hog
Wow.
With the tools?
with the stones. It's quite
That's
from
awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. They have to make the handle, whittle that themselves.
No, actually, what he ends up showing is the way that stones will split and becomes very sharp.
Yeah.
And then it
Like
can
obsidian
design-
or
yeah,
flint or something?
the rest of he shows them different styles of rocks and there's hammers, and they
Yeah.
actually he breaks this carcass down using just stones.
Who's teaching this class?
Leah Dome.
That's it. We're getting rid of the knives and the
It's funny because, like, really going back to basics. The day starts with, like us, we bury tubulars, like, because you're not going to find food, but you have to go through the whole thing where I'm burying Idaho potatoes and sorghum. But it's a fun day to see the whole aspect of breaking down. And then they build their tools and they actually, break down the hob.